This week, XDefiant dropped what might seem like a pretty small balancing patch for the game on the surface. A couple of bug fixes, some weapon and ability balancing, so on and so forth. But I would argue that this update actually carries some weight in telling us a little bit about the game's update cadence, of which I think is worth highlighting. G'day there once again viewers, your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today, let's have a chat about XDefiant update Y1 S1Y1.2 and why I think this update actually spells out some really good steps for the game more broadly. Right, so there's quite a decent list of fixes and changes here that vary in size and impact, so there is a link to the full patch notes in the description down below if you guys are keen to go line by line on that. But I definitely want to focus on a couple of changes in particular, mainly being the ability and weaponry balance changes. As we get into this video guys, a reminder that if you do enjoy the content, a like goes a long way in supporting the channel, and make sure you subscribe if you guys do enjoy the content, because we are going to be covering a lot of things across a huge variety of first-person shooter games, so it'll be great to have you part of the community. We also stream on Twitch multiple times a week, which is linked in the description down below as well, so come check out the live content. Let's start off today with one of the biggest changes on this list in my opinion, something that was actually removed from the game with the Season 1 update and has been returned in light of some pretty overwhelming community feedback. Yes folks, you can now shoot the spider bot off your own face again once they latch on. Now those of you who were playing the game at launch will remember that you could actually do this pretty consistently if you looked straight down and started shooting once a spider bot jumped on your face, which gave you a pretty direct counter to these problematic little bastards. Turns out that was actually a bug in the game and it wasn't intentional from the developers. But as we said before, when it was removed, people felt like a big element of countering this ability, one of the most annoying abilities in the game mind you, was also removed and swayed the balance of the game in the completely wrong direction. And well, the devs listened to that feedback, which again, I want to draw a bit more focus on in a moment here as well. But for now, personally, I'm damn well ecstatic that this counter has made a return, because the amount of times I've been stun locked with zero counter with this spider bot where otherwise I would have had a chance to save myself was enough to make me want to punt my mouse out onto the street, so thank God that changes here. The only other major changes in the ability area of the game was fixing the glitch that would sometimes see the firebomb, digital ghillie suit, and BOVDA boosts not activating properly and then actually glitching out entirely until you switched characters. That has also been addressed in this update, so you shouldn't catch yourself not being able to use your abilities and just having them shit the bed randomly. Very happy to see this change come to the game here too. But something that I really do want to focus on in this video, folks, are the weapon changes that have occurred. More specifically, the changes to the MDR, which, if I may be so bold to say, may have just taken the weapon from being a mid-tier weapon at best to an S-tier monster. Such changes have come in the form of a small improvement to the MDR's ADS speed, which is now sitting at 250 milliseconds from 300 milliseconds, placing it in line with the LVOAC, but more importantly, an improvement to the short-range damage, which now sits at 19 as opposed to the 17 it rocked prior to the update. Now, if you're anything like me, you'll be pinging that soul brain cell of yours and noticing that the heavy barrel could now very well make a world of difference on the MDR, taking it from a 6-shot kill to a 5-shot kill. Now, in light of this news, folks, you best believe that I'm working on a weapon review for the MDR right now as we speak, and I actually hope to get that video out tomorrow, but we'll see how I go. Overall, the MDR feels incredible to use right now, my friends, and I highly recommend you revisit it after this update because it could very well have just been turned into an absolute monster of a thing. The M4A1 also got a small bump in its short-range damage from 17 to 18, which actually makes the M4 deadlier against phantoms in CQC now, taking one less shot to seal the deal. So that's a neat little update to the M4 as well, and definitely affords it some added consistency for those of you who prefer to rock it in close quarters combat. I'm not going to say that this will, turn the M4 into the new meta weapon per se, but it's definitely a nice boost to the consistency, which again, that's what the M4A1 is all about, so a change that makes sense for the weapon overall. The MP5A2 also got some love in this update too, which upped its max damage range from 16 to 18 meters and its medium damage range from 25 to 27 meters, and it also had its medium range damage overall increased from 13 to 14 per shot, and its headshot multiplier increased from 1.35 times to 1.4 times. And after spending some time with the MP5 post-update, this is going to further improve the MP5's role as the adaptable, middle-of-the-road entry to the SMG category. It's nothing that I would call game-changing for the MP5, but similar to the M4A1, it very much sort of solidifies the MP5's role and makes it a bit better at achieving that. It's nothing game-changing like the MDR, but it's something. And nonetheless, I can say that the MP5 definitely feels far stronger in the game now by comparison to where it was. I found myself really punching up in situations where I would have once thought, nope, absolutely not, this AR is going to wipe the floor with me at this range. But no, the MP5 kind of stepped up to the challenge and pleasantly surprised me, so yeah, up the MP5, I guess. And those are the really big changes that I wanted to highlight in this patch. There's obviously a bunch of other smaller stuff too that you guys can read at your own leisure, but for the purpose of this video, those are the big things. And if I may, guys, off the back of that, I also wanted to take a moment to highlight the mentality I'm seeing with these updates that, to me, feels like a nice change of pace in the gaming space more broadly, so to speak. Now, for one, there seems to be a sense of, I want to say, maturity from the developers here in understanding that while yes, they hold the core vision for the game, the community more broadly now holds the experience and the hands-on time with the game since it's been, out in the wild. And that experience that the community now holds should therefore also hold some serious weight in decision-making around how the game is balanced long-term. The Spiderbot counter of being able to shoot it off your own face that was reintroduced back into the game was never meant to exist. It was a bug, and the developers obviously made the call to fix said bug, as you obviously would with most bugs that come into your game. But in this instance, community feedback indicated that it was an important counter to an otherwise incredibly powerful and annoying ability, and thus, the bug has become a feature, all in response to community feedback, and that is a kind of maturity in design from the developers that I like to see. To me, it goes to show that the developers here are not beating their chests going, no, you guys are wrong, we are right. They're willing to listen and act accordingly. And that to me is very important as a player of these games. But on top of that, in the weaponry balance department, we seem to be seeing a focus on not nerfing the overperformers, but instead buffing the underperformers. The MDR in particular was a weapon that was well and truly power creeped out of the game with the addition of the LVOAC in Season 1's launch. And while the developers could have easily just nerfed the LVOAC to make up for the difference and, bring the MDR back into the fray, nope. They instead opted to improve the underperformer to the level that has been established by the other weapons in the game already. It keeps the game more enjoyable and makes the armory feel more diverse whilst keeping up the track with the degree of effectiveness that we've come to expect from our weapons in the game. We've seen what happens time and time again when games opt to go down the other path, looking to nerf overperformers down to the level of their underperforming counterparts. A prime example of this is Helldivers in its earlier days of balancing decisions. There was an overabundance of nerfs to try and bring the less picked stratagems and weapons up to the level of their overperforming counterparts, which kind of ran the risk of taking the fun or any sense of power away from the player base. In that context, every stratagem and every weapon felt more boring to use. It didn't feel like you had a sense of weight and power behind the equipment you were taking in game. Obviously, with a PvP game, the thresholds of, what needs to be nerfed and what needs to be buffed changes a little bit there, but the same thought process kind of applies here too. If we overly nerf everything in XDefiant to bring it down to the level of our underperforming counterparts, then we quite frankly take the power and the fun away from the majority of weapons, and the game just feels like more of a slog by comparison. So again, to me, this mentality here of buffing our underperforming weapons as opposed to just going straight for the nerf bat shows a sign of maturity in the balancing approach for XDefiant going forward. And if we can keep that up, I'm kind of looking forward to the direction XDefiant is going to take in the long run run here as far as further balancing decisions go. But I guess, folks, that's the overall message that I wanted to end this video on. While yes, it was a small update, I figured we could use it as a catalyst for a discussion around sort of, a wider topic, and I hope you guys found the discussion in today's video enjoyable. If you did, a backhand of the like button does go a long way to supporting the channel, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing whilst you're at it. It keeps you up to date with all future video releases, and it would be my pleasure to have more of you in the community more long term. And on that note, be sure to come swing by our Twitch channel as well, link in the description down below. It'd be great to see you guys there too. Once again, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care, guys. Have a good one.